Hey everyone, Jeff here from Films at Home. Thanks for coming back to the Films at Home podcast today. Whether you are watching the video stream on YouTube or you're listening along on your favorite podcast app, welcome all. Today, I got a really exciting interview for myself because I was able to get Mick Werkhoven, who is the marketing and events manager at Bull Moose, to come on the podcast today. Bull Moose is my local video store, one of my favorite stores. They do everything from movies to vinyl to books. They have used and new. They have CDs, cassette tapes, Blu-ray, 4K, DVD, you name it. Such a cool place to shop. I've been talking about them on my YouTube channel for years because they are my local store. I go to the Salem, New Hampshire location all the time, but they also have a great website which they sell used copies of movies and music on, as well as video games and lots of other things. So love their store, have always supported them and always talked about them and wanted to do something more. So super excited to have Mick on the podcast today. We're going to dive into all kinds of topics, like basically, how does Bull Moose stay in business with all these other video stores closing down? What's the secret? Is there something to the location being in New Hampshire and Maine exclusively? Like, was there a reason to be up that way? We'll talk about the video store, record store experience and how that's changed over the years, trends in the industry and what we're seeing, especially Mick, being a marketing manager at a media store and how things have changed over the years and how they've adapted. All this really cool stuff. There aren't many people left that you can talk to who work for a media store chain. So I think you guys will really enjoy this, and it'll probably be a little bit nostalgic. And unfortunately, if you're not in the New England area, you don't get to experience Bull Moose in person like I do. But I'm telling you, if you're ever up this way, if you're ever staying in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Maine, there is probably a Bull Moose within an hour and a half of you. If you're in New Hampshire or Maine, they're even closer, and I can't recommend them enough. So hope you guys enjoy this interview. It was a super cool one for me, again, to talk to somebody at my favorite video store, and I think you guys will enjoy the topics we covered. So sit back, relax, enjoy the interview, and I'll see you guys at the end. All right, well, thank you guys for joining us for the interview. As promised, I've got Mick Werkhoven here from Bull Moose. She's the marketing and events manager at Bull Moose. I've already screwed it up in the first 10 seconds. But Bull Moose is my local video store, which I guess not a lot of people can even say anymore. But I do still have a local video store. I go there all the time, and I love it. So this was really cool to have anybody from Bull Moose on the podcast, and I'm excited to have you here. So you want to give just a little intro on yourself and maybe what you do in the day-to-day at Bull Moose and what your role is?
Yeah, sure. Like I said, or like you said, I should say, marketing and events manager, which means that I coordinate the in-stores. We haven't had a lot of those lately. But then I also run the social media channels, book the advertising. I put together and design a lot of the stickers and shirts. So I don't do all the artwork myself. Sometimes I collaborate with other artists for that, but I do the layouts and stuff. And I also do the email newsletters. So basically anything that's digital that you've seen on the internet, I had some sort of role in. And if you have a sticker on your car or laptop or phone, that's probably one of my stickers.
Love it. So it's you're the one that people are talking to online, Twitter, Instagram, all those places.
It is just me. Yep. Another guy, Chris, used to run the Bull Moose Vinyl account. So at Bull Moose and at Bull Moose Vinyl actually used to be like two separate personalities and entities. But he has gotten super busy with other stuff. So he works elsewhere right now. But he might be back someday.
Got it. I'm sure you could use the help. I know how hard that can be, running something all by yourself. I've been there before. I'm a marketing person myself. In my day job and then doing all this stuff. So yeah, I know how that can be, running a one-person show. So props to you on everything you're doing, because you're active online, which is great.
We try to post every day.
Yeah. No, I see it. So it's super cool. But I guess for people who don't know Bull Moose, what is Bull Moose? It's not an animal.
No, it's not. It's funny you said that, growing up, not a lot of people have a local video store near them growing up. And that is a strange concept to me because I grew up in Maine, so I've always had Bull Moose and now I work there. But for people who don't know what it is, we're a little chain up in Maine and New Hampshire. We're employee owned now, which is pretty cool. As of January 1, our founder and previous owner sold it to us, which is neat. But we're a movie store and a record store and a video game store. We have new stuff, pre-owned stuff, and sort of like one of the last stores of our kind around. You used to have big ones like Strawberries or, oh shoot, what was the Midwestern one? Not Second and Charles, that's the new one. Hastings. So
Oh yeah.
folks might know Hastings. We're kind of like that. So it's a weird thing to kind of have to describe when you've lived with it your whole life. You're like, it's Bull Moose. It's just, it is what it is,
Right, right. No, and I even grew up, I was a little bit further south. Now I'm up close to the New Hampshire border, and I've been to Maine plenty. I think I've been to every Bull Moose store.
You would have been more of a Newbury Comics person maybe back in the day.
I was definitely more Newbury Comics than, of course, like just your Blockbuster, your, whatever the local video rental store was. But I think I discovered Bull Moose probably in college when I started heading up to Portland more, which is, the hot spot if you're in southern New Hampshire, that and Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And I kind of discovered it and couldn't believe at that time, we're talking like 2013, 2014, that there was a store like this.
Yeah,
which was
it
awesome.
was already sort of like some other media stores had already sort of started their pivot away from like Blu-rays and DVDs at that point and got more into the lifestyle angle, which honestly I think worked out for basically everybody, because that left a lot of opportunity for us to continue to carry physical media, Blu-rays and vinyls and stuff. And then, other stores were able to carry their lifestyle items. And a lot of people say like, oh, you must be, big time competitors with Newbury Comics. And I was like, well, I mean, not really. We exist in the same space as entertainment retailers, but our relationship is more synergistic because, if there's a Newbury Comics and a Bull Moose that are near one another, most people will just go to both. And they'll buy stuff at both and it works out really well. So that's my philosophy anyway.
Yeah, no, and I think you're right. Like the Newbury Comics has definitely shifted more towards pop culture lifestyle as a whole versus media. And you've sort of seen like an FYE do the same thing. And I've even talked to people over in the UK that like HMV over there has shifted as well. And, they've gotten away from media and video and they've gone more towards lifestyle. So I appreciate that Bull Moose still has an emphasis on the media, whether it's music or movies or video games. It's just an incredible place to walk into. I tell everyone who visits, like, they always ask, what's the video store? I'm staying in Boston. And I say, drive an hour north and get to Salem, New Hampshire and go to Bull Moose because it's an experience. It's well worth it.
Salem is a wicked nice store too. They have one of the better selections of Blu-rays and 4Ks just because of the customer base, right? Like people in that area tend to dig deeper into like the Vinegar Syndrome, Arrow type boutique stuff. So more titles get stocked there more consistently.
Yeah, and that is my store. So if anyone's listening, maybe it may just be all my dollars that have made that store stock more Blu-rays. But I'm probably 15, 20 minutes from there now. So that's just super convenient. But I do love the Portsmouth store. And we should probably talk about that because the Portsmouth, New Hampshire store just moved, which was, I will say, it was in a bit of a tight spot before.
Yeah, so I would say that it's sort of a bittersweet sort of thing because we've been in that downtown location for over 20 years. Like that store has been there longer than I've worked for the company, right? But it's one of those things where, we want to do more with that location. Like we want to have more stuff. Like we especially want to have more books, and, a better way to organize Blu-rays and more 4Ks. But the layout of that store was not really conducive to it. It was more like a weird L, like a Tetris shape.
Yep.
And one of the other big challenges that a lot of downtown areas face is that parking and accessibility was a big problem. And that's not just like for customers, it's also like for staff and for, UPS, right? So the new location is still in Portsmouth, but it's sort of like going out more towards the mall area. And the benefit there is, number one, more square footage, like the store is physically larger. And it's also a box as opposed to a Tetris piece. So it's easier and better to lay things out. And then the big thing is that, like, gosh, like, there's places for people to park. There's a service entrance for UPS to come by and deliver stuff. So I'm really excited about it. I think the new location is going to be really, really sweet, and it's going to have a good combination of like classic fixtures and the classic aesthetic of a bull moose with a little bit of, modernization. And modernization doesn't necessarily mean corporate in that context. It just means that, like, I don't know, the bins are newer and they hold more stuff.
Sure.
So, and it also has a really cool ceiling. One of my favorite features is it has like a really high, like 12-foot ceiling with like, matte black, pipe work and ducts and stuff. It looks kind of like a warehouse where you'd have a rave in the 90s. So I think that is going to look great for the background of the store.
How is it size-wise in comparison to, say, the Salem, New Hampshire location?
Compared to Salem, it's probably like 60%, maybe 50% of the size. Like Salem is enormous. Like Salem is like 10,000 square feet. It's huge. But it's bigger than the old location by, about 1,000 square feet. So I don't know if you can picture what 5,500 square feet looks like compared to 10,000 square feet. I don't know.
So roughly about half the size of the Salem.
A little more than half the size of Salem.
Yeah, no, that'll be cool because that is a good. I love Portsmouth, and anytime if you guys are in New England or if you're visiting New England, and you don't leave Boston and come up to Portsmouth in Portland, Maine, like you're missing out on two of the better cities I think in the country. They're nice small cities, great food places, great shopping, and they both have a bull moose. So if you want a video store, it's a win-win.
Portland has two, basically. So
that's true, right? Because you have one right downtown.
Well, that one is actually closed right now. That one closed during the pandemic, but we have the one in Scarborough, which is as big as the Salem one, and then we have Mill Creek, which is like right across the bridge. So as long as you're in Portland, the other two bull mooses are pretty accessible.
Yeah, and the Scarborough one's a good-sized store, too. I've been to that one a few times. Good selection. Is it? I thought it might be. I know Salem's big, but I remember walking into Scarborough the first time and going, whoa, this is next level. Yeah, so I have to say, if you guys are anywhere in this area, people always ask me, take the trip. You can get out of Boston. Boston might have a Newbury Comics, but take the trip up the coast. It'll be well worth it, and you'll get a cool place to shop for movies. And they have used stuff, which is the beauty of it. Not a lot of people sell used movies anymore where you can actually get some good deals. So what do you think as the marketing person? What is the kind of key? How has Bull Moose been able to survive and even expand and grow locations and get bigger spaces? And you guys are still feels like growing and doing really well. So what's the key when everybody else has shut down their video stores and media stores? Like, what do you think Bull Moose is doing?
Yeah, well, I mean, luck is always a factor, but I think some of it also is what you were saying about the used, right? Like, the thing about Bull Moose is, like, you're not really sure what you're going to get. So it's kind of that combination of like thrifting with making sure that you get like the new stuff that you want. So you're like, oh yeah, okay, well, I know that the Steelbook 4K for heavy metal is out this week, so I'm going to go to Bull Moose and get it. And while I'm there, I'll just take a look at what maybe got traded in the last week. So there is that element of treasure hunting. The other thing that I think really helps us out a lot, honestly, is that there aren't a lot of video stores anywhere, and especially in places like Maine and New Hampshire, which are on the sort of rural sides of states. Broadband isn't sort of where it's at in other parts of the country. We don't have 5G in Maine. We just don't have it. So
I didn't know that.
yeah. So, streaming options are a little more limited. So, there's sort of like more need for access to physical media. And then, beyond that, like we've kind of like adapted over the years. Like we didn't we opened and we sold cassettes and records, right? And
Yep.
CDs. But our customers told us what they wanted, and what they wanted was, videotapes and DVDs and then books and video games and all that other stuff. So rather than trying to be like, we will survive, on our roots and we'll never change, we actually are fairly adaptive. And, as kind of like product lines and categories go up and down, we can kind of ride that wave, and make sure that we're always kind of like trying to stay relevant with what is important to people in pop culture. And to their credit, I think folks place like Newberry's does the same thing, just with a different set of stuff. Like Newberry Comics certainly has deviated from their like original philosophy and their original categories, but they're still true to their vision of being a oasis of pop culture, right? So I think that's what it is, and I think that that's why we're around, and that's why we do what we do, because we have stuff, and people like stuff. I probably don't have to tell you that as big a market as streaming is, the largest percentage of consumers out there are doing a mix. Like they're streaming and collecting physical. The number of people who are strictly streaming and strictly physical is pretty low.
Yeah. And that is, I think I surprise people when I tell them I stream movies, because I'm like, I'm the physical media guy. You shouldn't. And it's like, I mean, I want to watch Kenobi though. Like I'm not going to miss out on that.
People are like, wait, why do you have a Spotify account? Like, why do you pay for Spotify? I'm like, well, because I like music, and one of the great things about streaming is you can get exposed to so many more kinds of music, and you get to try so many more albums, and then sort of commit to buying the ones that are your favorite. If you think about a teenager who goes into a Bull Moose with $15 in 1995, they can get 2 CDs, right? They can get 2 CDs off the wall, and maybe they don't like them, right? It's a much bigger risk. It's a much bigger investment. But now, you can walk into a Bull Moose with $15 and get 1.5 CDs, give or take. But if you're, listening to stuff on Spotify, you get to figure out exactly what it is that you want, and you just get so much exposure. And with Spotify, you're more likely to take a chance on something that you wouldn't have otherwise. So I don't see streaming as bad. I don't even see streaming as our enemy necessarily. It is part of the musical ecosystem, and if we don't do anything about that or just ignore it, like it's still going to exist without us. Streaming is bigger than us. Spotify is bigger than Bull Moose. So if Bull Moose fights Spotify, we're going to lose, right? That's just the way it goes.
Yeah, and it is great for discoverability and accessibility to things you had not heard before. Movies, music, whatever it may be. And the beauty is you can walk into Bull Moose for $15, and if you buy used, you can probably walk out of there with a good chunk of CDs.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I guess I was thinking about new CDs in particular, but if you have $15 and you're looking at used CDs, you might be able to get 6.
Right, and I think that's the beauty of like streaming for, like if you're in a younger generation, this is how you're discovering music and movies. And so you're discovering things from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and now you want to buy them because they've become a favorite, whether it's an old movie or a vinyl re-release or a CD. And I do appreciate it for that aspect of the accessibility for anybody to discover new things and discover new artists and support small artists and small movies. Like I think that's the beauty of it. And the reality is, most people are streaming some, buying some, buy your favorites. It's a mix because we do like to have stuff. Humans are collectors.
Right, exactly.
So, but I liked your point about, I hadn't really ever thought about Bull Moose as like that thrifting experience, but you're totally right every time I go in there, because it's the only experience that I've had since, I don't know when the Blockbuster in my town closed, 2006. I mean, it's the only experience that I've had like that, where you can walk in, you don't know what you're going to see. You know the newest movie will be there, but you don't know what might be on the shelves. You don't know what you're going to discover. And you can get stuff for a really great price with used, or even your new stuff a lot of times I find is priced just as well as Amazon, or even better. In a lot of cases, you have some really good deals. So having to compete with that conglomerate, I know is a big thing, but I love the Bull Moose membership, and you gain points for buying there. I trade in my movies there. I'm one of the people could be buying my movies for all I know, because I trade them in and get the credit. I love that aspect of it.
Yeah, the buy sell trade is also awesome, right? Because it gives people an outlet for their old stuff. And I mean, most people take store credit, right? Or they take some amount of store credit and some amount of cash. Because, like, I mean, I do it, right? Like,
Yeah.
I have worked for Bull Moose for almost 12 years now, and I still do buybacks all the time because I'm like, you know what? This stuff isn't important to me anymore, or I'm like upgrading from, well, upgraded most of my DVDs to Blu-rays, and now I'm upgrading all my Blu-rays to 4Ks. So,
But there really aren't that many places where you can go in and say, hey, I've got 25 Blu-rays I want to trade in because there's new 4K releases. They would look at you and go, okay, great. Like, here's the trash bin. Yeah. Like, what do you want me to do with them? And I love just like the sustainability aspect, or the recycling aspect of that too, where you're just putting it back into somebody else's collection versus you're throwing it away or donating it somewhere. It's going to sit in a shelf forever and never get used. So I do always tend to trade in whenever I can. And yeah, the store credit, it's a beautiful thing that I can bring in 20 movies. And it's not like everyone thinks trade-ins are like GameStop, where they're like, oh, nice video game, here's 5 cents for it. Bull Moose will actually give you a fair trade-in value versus other places, I think.
I think so too, but I'm paid to think that. But I also do think, I think it's true. Like, if we gave unfair prices, like, I wouldn't trade into my own store, right? But I do.
No, it's a beautiful thing, and just nobody's doing it, which is what sets you guys apart, I think. So what have you been seeing in sort of like, I know you said you guys have adapted over the years, and what are sort of the trends you've been seeing lately in all physical media, music, video games, movies, as things move digital? Like, what's kind of sticking and what's selling well?
Yeah, well, vinyl is obviously huge. Like, the vinyl resurgence has been real for a couple of years, but it's like getting bigger and bigger. Like, we're selling, more vinyl in a month than we used to sell in a year. And part of that, right, is like the industry has adapted and they're just manufacturing more of it. And part of it is also that young people are very interested in records. What I really like about record collecting is that it can become a multi-generational hobby. And I, whenever possible, try to like encourage people to think about what would be somebody's first record, right? So, somebody comes in and I think about like artists like Olivia Rodrigo or Taylor Swift or Girl in Red, or artists like that who are really popular, with teen girls, and like they're passionate, dedicated fans, and I think it's really cool that they're also getting into vinyl collecting, because it's a fun hobby. Like, collecting is fun, I think, and there's a lot of really fun variants for it. Another big thing we're seeing a lot of is the popularity of tabletop gaming. So whether that's Magic cards or Dungeons and Dragons or any of the other role playing systems, tabletop gaming is a pretty big category at Bull Moose these days. And again, it's driven primarily by young people who are just super passionate about their hobby and their niche. And it's funny. I think what people think of as like a record store employee is probably still like, if somebody out there has like never been to a Bull Moose, or they haven't been to a Newbury Comics, and they think about like who works at a record store, they probably think about characters from Empire Records or high fidelity, right? Like Jack Black and John Cusack and folks like that. But that's really not the archetype anymore. People who work at Bull Moose are much more invested in sort of like gaming and movies more so than music, which isn't to say that music isn't important to them. Music is obviously very important to lots of folks, but I don't know. It's just different. It's cool. I think it's great. And I don't know, not to get too sort of heady about it, but there's more music now than there's ever been before. Like every year they put out more music, and you can find somebody. And because of streaming services and because of like, internet algorithms, you can get really, really deep into a particular genre that you just never could before. Like, oh yeah, somebody is really super into, Japanese pop from the 80s, or they're really into fourth wave ska, or, experimental ambient Afrobeat. Like these are genres that were just not accessible 20 years ago, really. And now they are, and that's really cool.
Yeah, I've been seeing a similar trend too with movies, because there's a ton of these cult movies, these direct to VHS horror movies, these forgotten movies that now, like an Arrow Video or a Kino Lorber or somebody will pick up, because the technology's gotten to the point where they can, do this stuff in-house a lot of times and do a restoration and get a Blu-ray disc out, where like, was that as accessible 20 years ago? Probably not. Technology's improved greatly that, an independent company like that can do that. And so you're discovering all these new types of movies that were never accessible before. And I'm curious, have you seen like the boutique labels or independent labels for movies? Have those been the hottest sellers compared to some more of the mainstream?
Yeah, I mean, the AAA titles from major studios are always going to lead the pack. That's just kind of the way it is.
You can't outsell Spider-Man.
That the boutique labels aren't doing really, really well for themselves, and you're still you can get some pretty big numbers on some of those Arrows, some of those Kino Lorbers. A big hit that comes to mind recently was the 4K of Six String Samurai, which is like a movie that was best known for being on the Sci-Fi Channel in the late 90s. But the fact that movie, of all movies, got a full 4K digital restoration, I think is really cool. And there is that, that archival process. And I think for the folks that work at those labels, I don't want to speak for them, but my assumption is that is what drives them, that they want to preserve these films that would otherwise be lost. And I think about stuff like, the Mystic Knights of Oingo Boingo film, The Forbidden Zone, which just came out this past week, or Drop Dead Fred, which was a couple of weeks ago, or again, Six String Samurai, which was 3 or 4 months ago now. Like those are movies that are beyond obscure. You would think that there'd be not really a market for those, but there is, because you can actually find those people who are interested in those things because of the internet. So major props to K&L Studio Classics and Kino and Arrow for doing that kind of like very important archival work and making it so that these movies don't become lost media.
Yeah, which is something one of the biggest benefits of the physical media for me is the fact that we're getting away from hopefully the days of a lost media, where we're trying to preserve as much as we can and it's getting on disc. And but you are also finding those people, because of the internet and because of the global reach we all have now. You can find that niche audience who wants Drop Dead Fred, because those people have been yelling about that getting a Blu-ray release for years. And so I'm sure that did super well for Vinegar Syndrome, even though it's not a movie that you'd expect to sell. I mean, I saw them the other day sell out of one of their 4K titles that was limited. I had never heard of the movie, but they sold 10,000 copies at $55 a piece off their website. And I said, wow, like, where did those 10,000 people come from? But also good for them, because I love that you're finding that audience and keeping that movie alive. I think video stores like Bull Moose certainly contribute to that, because you can actually walk in and browse a shelf. If you go to Amazon or you go to Best Buy in their store, whatever's left of their stores for movies, or online, and you try to search for stuff, you're going to get Spider-Man, You're going to get Batman. You're going to get Marvel, Star Wars. You're going to get the AAA titles. It's hard to find that stuff on their sites. They don't really promote it for fair reason, I'm sure. But that's the beauty of walking into a Bull Moose, I think, is that you have the discoverability, but like you mentioned earlier, you also have employees who are actually invested in the things that they're selling. Because first of all, you can't talk to anybody at Amazon, so good luck getting help shopping there. And if you walk into a Best Buy and you ask some guy, "Hey, where's the latest Vinegar Syndrome release?" He would be like, we don't sell vinegar. Like, you need to go to a grocery store." Like, I have no idea what you're talking about. They just don't. I mean, and that's not who they're hiring. They're hiring people who can sell appliances and TVs now. But that's the really cool thing about Bull Moose. People will walk in there and you just walk up to the counter and ask an employee, "Hey, I like this movie. Give me 5 more that you think I'd like," or, "Do you have this in stock?" And they can look it up and tell you right where it is, or, get it shipped to you if it's not there. Whereas Best Buy is going to be like, "I don't know, go to the website, figure it out." There's not a lot of help. That personal touch is really cool. And it's that, like, that's what's missing. It's like the Quentin Tarantino behind the counters recommending movies to people in the late 80s. That knowledge doesn't exist anymore in a lot of places.
And sort of an important evolution from the Quentin Tarantino of the 80s is that there isn't sort of a level of judgment anymore. Back when I was a store manager, one of the things I tried to really get across to people was that people are passionate about the thing that they're passionate about. And we don't have to share in that passion specifically. We just have to share in the idea of their passion. Like, I like stuff. I'm very invested in stuff, and I'm very invested in the stuff that I like. And if somebody else is invested in something else, well, I can still, engage with them on that level to be like, "Hey, this really isn't for me, but I love that you love it."
Right.
And, I think there still is that somewhat of a public fear that, like, oh, I'm not going to seem cool enough for the record store clerk when I go and put my stuff on the counter. And that just isn't, like, nobody cares. Nobody cares, but in a good way. And they'll, they're more likely to be like, "Oh man, yeah, I really like this," or like, "Oh, this is cool that you're picking this out," that sort of thing.
Yeah, I definitely feel that there's an actual investment in what you're buying and your interests. And yeah, many times when I bring movies up to the counter, or I buy vinyl there too. We'll strike a conversation up with whoever's ringing that out, and it's not just a checkout. All right, see you later. It's like, "Oh man, you like this movie? Have you seen this one?" And it honestly has given me recommendations, or I've given recommendations back, and it's a really cool interaction that you sort of only get online these days. And I love having that when I go in there. But you're totally right about there's no judgment. There's just, like, if you like that obscure thing, or you only like the mainstream, you're just here for Taylor Swift, then hey, great, get Taylor Swift. Like, that's awesome. Good for you. There you go. I mean, 2 different ends of the spectrum. But that's what's awesome about it. I always love going in there because it is that feel that I think people are missing nowadays. You don't get with online shopping. And I love online shopping as much as the next guy, but there's still something to be said, especially in a niche thing like this, of going to a physical location. But I guess we should mention, if you're not in the New England area, you guys also do have an online store, which sells used copies, sells new copies, which I have found very helpful, especially when there were times with the baby or with COVID where I was like, yeah, I don't want to go out this week. It's getting kind of crazy out there, but I need these movies. The fact that you can buy used off the website is, I can't think of another place that's doing that. Hastings used to do it, and that's the only place I used to buy from.
Yeah, Hastings. There's a place out in Arizona and Nevada called Zia. They sell used stuff on their website. I bought stuff from Zia before. I got a really cool. They had the Bluray of Heavy Traffic that I bought on their website recently, which is an impossible to track down release, and I got it for a pretty fair price. But anyway, but yeah, so but selling used stuff on the website is also pretty cool because again, it gives folks access to things that they might not have otherwise. Like you can't always get into a bull moose like if you live in a different state. And we
Yeah.
have a lot of regular web customers who have never visited one of our stores before. Whether they're pre-ordering movies or vinyl or whatever, they're just kind of like, yeah, I found you all online, and I buy stuff from you, and it's pretty cool. So I think that's neat. We actually, just out of reach of the camera is like our web returns department. So I'm sitting next to a huge box of web orders right next to me. It's very funny.
Okay. So what are there plans to I love the website. Is it like the best website? Uh I don't want to say it. I didn't want to put it on the mark. Are there plans to expand?
Yeah, I mean, so we're working on a couple of things behind the scenes to sort of like improve the search functionality and give the homepage a bit of a facelift to make things a little bit easier to find. We have our webmaster is one person,
Yeah.
so we're doing our best. Um, but yeah, the biggest feature of the website is for locals, honestly, because it connects your store and web account together. So, like, if you sell stuff to the store, you can use the credit online, or you can get your points on the store and then use them on the website, or vice versa. So that was kind of like the priority during phase one, and as we enter phase 1.5 or phase two, it'll be a little bit some improved functionality and accessibility. Those are
Yeah.
buzzwords, but
Well, I'm a marketing guy. I get it. The buzzwords are everywhere, but no, I think it'll be huge. I mean, it's certainly not like a bad experience now. I tell people to go there because you do. I mean, if you search, if you're like, hey, I want the Forbidden Zone. Well, you can find the DVD, you can find the Blu-ray, you can find a used version. It's actually not. Well, that was a bad example, but something else. There'll be the 4K, there'll be the Blu-ray, there'll be the used Blu-ray, there'll be a used 4K if somebody's traded them in. You have all these options to all the stock that is also in stores, and you can also check and see what's in stock in stores if you wanted to go and pick stuff up. But that is why I use the sites, because it's hard for me to just get out with the baby and everything. So I'll trade stuff in. I'll just leave my cell phone. I'll say, look, whatever you guys want to give me for store credit, you're good. I'm not coming back to pick them up. Tell me what you want to give me. And then I go home and I order them online because it's like, what is it, $35 free shipping? I mean, I spend that every time, no doubt. So that's never an issue. And it gets to me in a day because I'm local. Like that's the really cool thing too, is if you're local, you get local service versus I ordered that movie from Best Buy and it's coming from a warehouse in California and takes 5 days to get here. I even with media mail shipping, I'll usually see it show up within 1 or 2 days, which is awesome for local people. So I guess the last question is sort of like, other than website, like what's in the cards? Are there plans to expand Bull Moose? Are you going to remain Maine and New Hampshire, or have you thought about more of New England, Massachusetts store? I'd vouch for that just because I'm a Massachusetts guy.
everybody has been asking. I think that the two biggest requests we get is a store further up in Maine, so like north of Bangor or down east, like Bar Harbor way, or down into Massachusetts, Connecticut, that kind of thing. And I mean, I would say it's not off the table, but not imminent. Um, we tend to be what's the word, opportunistic, maybe, like when a good location presents itself. We tend to jump on it, which is how we ended up in Keene, and that location is great. Um, so I would say that it's not top of mind, but it's not bottom of mind either, which is maybe a weird thing to say. But we're in a good spot. We're humming along pretty well. Um, there are logistical challenges the more that you expand the web of stores, but so we would want to do so in a more sustainable way, which is to say we don't want to just like open up a bunch of stores and then be like, well, that didn't work. uh, Not that we would anyway, but I think
So I
probably
think
the
that makes sense.
the bigger thing would be to improve the website and just get more web orders going out, and then sort of like see where things go from there. But I mean, like at the same time, obviously, it's something that we're open to doing. Like we're moving the Portsmouth store because things are great in Portsmouth, and we found a location that lets us do more of what we want to do. So we're doing it. And we're sort of on the lookout in other areas too. Like when the opportunity presents itself, we'll probably do it.
That makes sense. I think that's smart too, because it's a niche thing. You don't want to just overexpand and then you get oversaturated. And we've seen how many different bigger retailers do that over the last few years. So I can appreciate that. If the opportunity presents itself, then you'll jump on it. I'll keep my eyes open for anywhere in Massachusetts.
Well, definitely. I mean, it'll be a big deal when we decide to open a Massachusetts store. You'll hear about it for sure.
Yeah, I think so. I imagine the amount of traffic you get to the Salem, New Hampshire store has got to be a ton of people from Massachusetts.
Yeah, lots of mass folks, definitely. Well, it's also you can see Methuen, right? But
Right. Yeah, it is right over the New Hampshire line for those who don't know. It's like, that's why I say it's 15 minutes for me. It's like, welcome to New Hampshire, welcome to Bull Moose. I mean, it's like bang, bang, which is beautiful. And then you don't pay any tax because you're in New Hampshire too. So that's a beautiful thing too, when you're buying, $100 worth of movies. So I love the store. I love that you guys are doing well and keep it, expanding, and that web store will be huge. I will happily drive people there, because that ability to buy used Blu-ray online, or even used 4K, DVD, vinyl, books, I mean, it just doesn't exist. So I think you've got that market cornered, and people are really asking for it. So I hope more people listen to this and will go to bullmoose.com and discover it and support and buy some stuff, because I'm telling you, you can get Blu-rays sometimes for $3 or $4 even online if they're used. It's a beautiful thing.
I also, just for the record, looked it up, and you can get Forbidden Zone on DVD. We don't have it in stock presently, but it is available at one of our primary distributors, so it is accessible. And I didn't know that. So,
That actually is a question I wanted to ask. Sometimes I'm looking a lot of times for obscure stuff, and I go to the website and it'll say, yeah, we can get it for you, but it might take a while. I think that's like almost the exact wording, like, or we can get it for you, just be patient or something.
yeah, so that's a warning that gets applied to a lot of MOD stuff. So basically, anything that's coming from Allied Vaughn would have that warning applied to it. And basically, what it means is we don't have it, but somebody else does. So we order it from them. It shows up at our place. We ship it to you.
Which I think is like another super cool benefit, because a lot of places would just say, look, we don't have access to it. We don't have it in store. We're not shipping it. And Bull Moose will go out of their way to go get it for you.
Right. And all that's just because, like, we have, electronic data feeds from a bunch of major warehousing services and distributors. So, like, I could tell you that, let's see, what is it? Ingram Entertainment has 35 Forbidden Zone DVDs available for purchase currently. That could change any minute, but that's how many are there.
But it is a super cool benefit, because I can't think of another place where I shop online that, like, you could type in pretty much any movie that's not completely out of print, and there's a pretty good chance that you either have it or you could find a way to get it, which is just really cool.
It's true. If it is in print, we could probably get it. If we can't get it, it's probably out of print. Or it could be, an exclusive, right? Like every once in a while, it'll be like, actually, the 4K of such and such with the Steelbook you can only get from Arrow's website.
Right. Yeah. And that's a different story. But I got to tell people, I have even found out of print stuff from time to time. I found a DVD copy of Dead Alive, which I'd been looking for a while. I think I found it for, it was fairly priced. It was like $12 or $13, but I found that at Bull Moose, and like, what a surprise that was. So you never know what you're going to find. That's the beauty of it. It is.
Was that this year that you found that?
It was a while ago, but it's been long out of print. And so I I always search for it, and I just stumbled upon it and was like, oh my God, here it is. Bull Moose. Bull Moose came through for me. So you never know what you're going to find. It's a really good time. I'm telling you, if you're anywhere local and you can drive, even if it's an hour and a half, 2 hour drive, it's well worth getting to one of these locations because you can make a day of it. I swear. If you're a real big movie, music, book fan, I mean, you can make a whole day out of a trip to one of the stores like Salem or Scarborough that have some of the bigger locations, bigger selection. It's a ton of fun. Yeah, it's just a ton of fun. There's just everything you could ever want media wise is there, and then tabletop games and pop culture items, of course, and it's just got everything. So I'm a huge fan, and I'm just so happy to have somebody from Bull Moose on the podcast because I've been wanting to do this for a while and get the word out there. So I hope this will keep it going and drive some sales. And if you're not local, head to bullmoose.com. It'll be well worth your time. So yeah, Mick, I appreciate you coming out for the interview today. This was a lot of fun. This was cool to see some behind the scenes on my favorite video store and I guess my only video store, but by default, my favorite video store. But at least I have one. It's a beautiful thing because I know a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
So appreciate it. And we'll have to have you back on if you ever do like that Massachusetts store opens up.
We'll definitely have a behind the scenes.
Yeah, let me know. We can do something there. If the web store opens up and gets refreshed, let me know. We'll do some promotion to support you guys because I believe in it.
I'm very talkative, so I can just go on and on and on about behind the scenes stuff. I think it's fun. I was like, it's fun to like look at the numbers and be like, how many Forbidden Zones are out there? When was the last time we sold a pre-owned copy of Dead Alive? It's May 25th, by the way, in case you're curious.
Really? So they're still out there.
Well, let's see. It was in the store for 2.5 days before somebody bought it.
Yeah, but see, if you guys look, you could find it. You never know what you're going to find, but they definitely go quick because people like me know what they're looking for. So that's super cool that they're still coming in even after all these years. But yeah, I appreciate the time. Definitely go check out bullmoose.com. Follow them on social media. I'll put all the links for everything down in the description of the video. If you're on audio, we'll put the description in the episode description. So all the links will be there too. But appreciate it, and we'll have you back on soon. I really appreciate you coming out for this and taking the time.
You're welcome. Sounds good. It was fun.
All right, guys. So thanks for listening, watching to that interview with Mick. I had a great time talking to her. She really understands this business and like what sets Bull Moose apart. It's the personalities, it's the care for the customers, it's, membership programs and just the way that they treat their customer base who have these unique interests or mainstream interests. We're all collectors. We're all interested in just buying media, buying stuff. And Bull Moose just gets it. So I can't say it enough times. I probably said it like 5 times in the interview, but seriously, if you guys are anywhere near this area that I'm in, if you're in New Hampshire or Maine or even northern Massachusetts, even Boston for that matter, you can get to Bull Moose in an hour. It's well worth taking the trip. And seriously, there is nobody out there right now other than maybe the Zia Records who Mick referenced out in Arizona, who's got such a wide selection of new and used media, whether it is a vinyl record, whether you're looking for a cassette tape, a rare DVD, a Blu-ray, stuff that other stores are just not going to carry in person. Bull Moose has them in store. If they don't have them in store, they'll get them for you. And they have a huge used selection online. So a lot of times you'll look at a Blu-ray title, you'll see it's new for $8. It's used for $4.97. That's a great deal, and you can pick up a lot of Blu-rays for a very good price on their site. So I can't recommend them enough, whether you're shopping online or whether you can get there in person. The in-person experience is on another level. I absolutely love their store, and I was super excited to have Mick on. So appreciate you guys watching, listening. Hope you guys enjoyed the interview. Let me know what you thought, and let me know if you'd like to see somebody else come on. I'll do my best to get them. So yeah, thanks for watching, listening. All the links will be in the description to my social media accounts, and subscribe to the channel here on YouTube if you're watching. Subscribe to the Spotify or Apple podcast feed, wherever you are. Follow along if you enjoy enjoyed this, leave a 5-star review and let me know. I appreciate that very much. And of course, make sure to check out Bull Moose. I will leave a link to their website where you can find all of their locations as well as shop their online store, which is a great way to support them if you're somewhere otherwise outside of New England. It's a well done website for media. I can't wait till they expand it and search gets a little bit better and stuff. But if you can usually find what you're looking for, it's a very good website and it's super easy to shop and do what you need to do on there. So love their site, love their stores. Can't wait to do more with them, and hopefully you guys will support them as well by just by listening to this. Is a huge deal. But share this podcast and really spread the word about Bull Moose, because they're doing great things and there aren't many stores left like them. So that's it. Have a great rest of your day. Stay safe out there, and I will talk to you guys soon.
Coming soon. Be sure to subscribe to the Films at Home podcast using your favorite app so you don't miss another episode. And while you're there, don't forget to rate and review this podcast, which helps us out tremendously. You can also help support us by watching our short-form content over on YouTube and TikTok by searching Films at Home. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at films_at_home. The intro and outro were created by Elin Osborne. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.